Hi, everyone. Very warm welcome to this live virtual session. I am Jerry from People Matters, and it's a delight to have you join us for this exclusive discussion we're having today. So, we're talking today about post offer candidate engagement. And based on the response for this webinar, I think this is a key challenge area for a number of you. And so we really are excited to engage with some of our experts today to unpack this challenge area for you today. So the post-offer period is a critical time for both companies and candidates, and engaging candidates at this time is no longer something that can be left to chance. You need to have a strategy. You need to know whether you're effectively engaging the candidate, and you should also build a relationship with your employer brand during this time. So we will delve deeper into this through our conversation. But I also wanted to announce that we're bringing this session today in partnership with HireSure, and we're very excited for this partnership today. So let me quickly introduce our speakers for this discussion. We have with us James Job, who is the Senior Vice President for Talent Acquisition India at Hinduja Global Solutions, an experienced personnel with a track record of more than 3 decades. He's worked extensively in sales, operations, manufacturing, and services industry, and he's now in HR. James is a distinct leader, spearheading large projects across multiple geographies, and he's been a recipient of awards and titles, scaling the career ladder in senior leadership positions. Thank you so much for taking time, James, today, and welcome to this discussion.
Thanks, Jerry, and welcome everybody to the show.
Absolutely. We also have with us Rajiv Srinivas, who is the head of talent strategy at Maverick Systems. As SVP for talent strategy, Rajiv directs the TA strategies and leads the tactical execution approaches that ultimately create Maverick's globally competent and battle ready talent supply chain. And addressing new age businesses' unique talent needs, Rajiv's role brings muscle to Maverick's aspirations to be the top three domain led bank tech solution specialists. Welcome, Rajiv. It's a pleasure to have you join us here today.
Hey, thank you so much, Jerry, and lovely to be here. And I look forward for a conversation which involves you, James, and Chirag. So Anurag. So look forward for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Our third speaker is Anurag Dixit, who is the co-founder and CEO of HireSure. He's an engineering graduate from IIT Kanpur and a second-time entrepreneur. He's a tech enthusiast, specializing in user research. He loves building and scaling technology solutions, and his passion is using technology to enhance human capabilities and give them more firepower. So Anurag is currently building HireSure.ai, which is a technology breakthrough solution in white-collar hiring, and it helps companies make winning offers to candidates by using data-driven compensation decisions. Welcome, Anurag. It's a delight to have you also with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much, James and Rajiv, for joining us. Looking forward to have an exciting conversation.
Thank you, Anurag.
Absolutely. So before we jump into the questions, I wanted to also note to our audience that we will have a Q&A at the end of this discussion. So at any time, if you have any question, please feel free to use the chat window that should be on the right-hand side of your screen. At any time, you can post questions and during the discussion as well, and we will take them at the end of this discussion. Okay, so with that, let's jump right into the first question. So Anurag and James, I wanted to start with you. Given that we're seeing this talent market now in a state of flux, we're hearing a lot of news about firing workers, and there's sort of a weak demand, which is also increasing the competition of the talent pool. Right, there are a lot more people for fewer jobs. What are some of the trends that you are observing currently in the hiring landscape, and why should we focus on this post-offer period specifically? James, can we start with you?
Okay, sure. Thanks, Jerry, and that's a very interesting question, and we would have seen that all over the news of people, 10,000 people today on Amazon has are planning to asked to leave, as well as sometime earlier, a few other organizations as well. So I'm pretty sure that the demand supply equations will change. What we had seen that over the post pandemic, there has been a huge increase as far as the automation overall is concerned, and the remote working, as well as now what we have gone into the hybrid model of working that is taking place. Now, while this change is taking place as well as the overall industry is concerned, I'm pretty sure in the hiring landscape as well, the various organizations have got ready to face this challenge by automating the entire hiring process that they currently have, looking at how do you are able to lessen the entire pipeline or the hiring process, right from an applicant applying to the offer being released at a very fast manner rather than taking your own time, looking at how do you have your perfect job fit candidates getting into your organization based on your needs that you have, are some of the things that various organizations are being looking forward to, given the current scenarios. So you would have seen a lot of trends emerging as far as predictive hiring is concerned, social recruitment is concerned, asymptomatic way of interview is concerned. So these are some of the trends that are over the period emerging as far as the new trends are concerned, and of course keeping candidate experience as the key focus, right? So all organizations are looking at how do you keep the candidate as the front and look at the experience that he has and how do you make it better for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anurag, would you like to add to this?
Definitely. So, given the current market trends where more and more people are being laid off, now if you see candidate experience alongside that, what that essentially means is for whatever position that you start hiring now, you might expect a larger top of the funnel, right? The bottom of the funnel might still remain the same or even lessen because now you would make more rational hiring, right? Probably if you had to hire two, you're now hiring only one. But the top of the funnel is even larger. Now, before all of this happened, we were talking this just before the webinar started. For every 100 people that applied, you eventually selected three. Out of three, eventually only one joined and retained. Now, there might be 500 people who apply. You still have to select only one. How do you make sure that candidate experience is not affected when you are rejecting 499 candidates versus 99, right? How do you keep that intact? So it is much larger a problem when it comes to candidate experience now because your workforce as of today is equipped to handle a certain funnel that is going through the roof now. How do you still not tarnish your brand image? Which is where what James rightly said, automation has a huge role to play. But automation can help you automating the tasks that have been defined by you. Now, if you see the hiring process in general, if you see hiring process as that of buying candidates, wherein you scrutinize a candidate for 2 to 3 weeks and then buy them using offer letters, it is not going to positively affect or impact your brand just because you've automated, because your automation is still scrutinizing the candidate. They have nothing to do with candidate experience. We all agree that hiring ideally should be about selling good things to the candidate, selling a vision to the candidate, why they should work for you. There's so many good things about a company that the candidate might even not know. And we all would agree, the more good about a company that a candidate gets to know, the more excited they'll be about working with you. But that is not happening. Your candidates come, they rarely know what is the mobile reimbursement policy in your company. They would eventually get to know, but that is a good thing, right? They don't know what the vision of the company is. If they had known, probably they would be more excited about joining you. So the post offer period that is there right now you see, out of three candidates you roll out an offer to, only one candidate joins, which means more number of candidates are actually rejecting a company than the number of candidates who are accepting a company. Why is that happening? because candidates are not particularly inclined to work with you. They're not excited about working with you. You're not a dream company that they would give up everything to work with you. That is no longer the case. You're just one of the companies where they happen to get an offer. If they get a better offer elsewhere, why would they not join there? Because all you have communicated to your candidates is just the offer, right? However, if you make hiring about selling multiple other things, the candidates would still think about multiple other things that you have to offer and not just the compensation, right? So utilize this post offer period to make this more about candidates, right? Tell them why they should work for you, what's in the store for you, how will they benefit from working with you, all the good things about the company. I think as long as that is not automated, that is not streamlined, it is going to be a worse candidate experience than what it was before.
Absolutely, absolutely. I really like the points that both of you made. I think on how do you create that excitement, and how do you also automate that experience, right? So, given that you're having this wide pool of candidates who are reaching out, how do you sort of bring in that automation element, which doesn't dull the experience, but actually enhances that candidate experience, maybe creates that excitement for them to know more about the company, right? So that's a key focused area, I think, that we will delve deeper into. So Rajiv, I want to bring your thoughts in here about this period, and more specifically about this hybrid context and a remote context as well. What do you think about this challenge area?
Oh,
What
sure.
has changed? Yeah.
Plenty. In fact, candidate engagement has not been anything new to most of the guys who have been trying to hire talent, in irrespective of what skills have been over a period of time. The advantage we had at that point of time was during this period, we could have brought candidates into a conversation, an interaction, physically meeting them, looked at the body language, then you could have created the trust, you could have created that bond, you could have understood, sorted out problems, issues, questions about the role, the team, the kind of work they will do. So it gave you a much better sense of control, and also gave the candidates a very good perspective because they have met the people they will work with, and they've understood the culture of the company, and the great opportunity for us to showcase what we can do for them. But in the context of post COVID, where everything has become extremely hybrid, virtual, and even our own onboarding, so we may have hired more than 1,000 people in the last 12 to 15 months period. I'm fairly certain that less than negligible percentage of people have been onboarded virtually, have been assessed virtually, have been interviewed virtually, the offers have been rolled out virtually, and so everything has been virtual. And getting to be in touch with them also has been virtual. But we understand that it's the most important part, because we can't leave anything to chance. Like Anurag said, that while hiring ratios, the throughput and what really happens in the end may be a little different for different companies, but the substantial amount of people who you are dealing with at various parts of your engagement, including rejections and communicating why you're not moving forward with somebody, and also being in touch with people who are likely to join you, how are you going to create a pretty much a bond, pretty much a universe where we are able to handhold them through this period? Because where notice periods vary from 15, 30, 45, 60, 90 days. We have seen all the cycles. So we have we have done something very, very specific. So we continue to believe that we, though some of the onboardings have moved to a little bit more physical, but we still continue to grapple with a fair bit of what do you call virtual. So we have created forums, we have created newsletters, we have created events. So we do two events specifically. One we call cultivation, where we bring people who are likely to join in conversation with the leadership team, who they can understand the vision of the company, which Anurag said. A lot of guys may not even know what your company does. Do not know the people behind the company. What is the vision? What is the plan? What is the growth? Why should they join you? We use this forum to talk about our history, our journey, where we are going. Also talk a bit about our policies. Important for them to know if they are in a hybrid work mode, what is that they are entitled to apart from the usuals, the perks. And then we also do something called a deep dive, which is specific to the team they're going to, where they get an opportunity to talk to their workers, colleagues, the bosses, the project, the teams, what they will end up doing. So we are trying to make sure that these two things, along with the constant connect, we are in with I have a team set up for this, called a candidate management team, which has a fairly bit of senior folks involved there. And they are talking to these candidates to pick up is everything on track, and is there some concerns which you can address, or is there something the candidate is looking for which we are probably not able to offer right now? Trying to see how all this can make some sort of a sense, Jerry. And so, has it been useful? If I only look at on Maverick's own story, I think we have moved the percentage points by about 2022 in terms of where we were 30-35% offer joining to about 50s now. And we like to take it a little higher. And we are very open to see what all more can we do, including some automation like Anurag mentioned, to see how we can boost this up. And I do know that today probably the funnel is much larger, but I don't think it changes any of these things, because you still have to do what you have to do, given the candidate experience, and making sure that everything is done the right way.
So, Jerry, I just wanted to dwell on a point with both Anurag and Rajiv made, and specifically this on the offer to joining ratio, and the importance as far as the offer to joining ratio is concerned for every organization. And as Rajiv said, he moved from a 35 to 50% of offer to joining, which is and just imagine 50% of the people are not joining, and the importance of that is that it impacts your revenue, because the business plans it out, right, that you might get that person who might be a revenue generating guy who's going to join you. It may impact that. It may impact as far as your overall productivity is concerned or efficiency is concerned. You would have certain clients to whom you have already committed that you're going to do this with this guy coming in. It doesn't come across, which impacts his satisfactions, the customer satisfactions. In fact, in some of the businesses that we do, we have a schedule adherence that becomes important. That is, at every 30 minutes, the number of people that we would be having to do a certain transaction. And if you are lessen on that, then it impacts your service level. So that's how much important as far as this particular discussions on offer to joining that takes place, and hence the entire engagement during the onboarding to your offer for the candidate becomes important.
Adding to that, one more point. The most neglected aspect in large recruiting teams is the team's motivation. I think so much of effort in terms of sourcing to closure, there has to be a sense of satisfaction, which we normally assume, because we make statements like it's a thankless team and we're thankless job, and then this is our job, which is all great in one context, but there is a huge mental motivation which is much needed for these people to know that what they have done has translated into an outcome. I think that's an extremely important aspect which we miss. A lot of my time in the last 12 months I've spent talking to the teams where that it has not been as productive as it should be, but it's nothing to do about them. It's about a lot of other aspects, and they have to really be on the job as motivated, because it will show in their work, which is the last thing you want right now.
Absolutely. Adding just one more point to that. Now imagine if there are different teams, different people doing the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and then the last funnel, which we are currently talking about. Now, if you are just at half efficiency in the last part of the funnel, which means you have wasted 50% of the efforts of all the people working above you, right? Because eventually you are able to convert just half the candidates, which is why positively impacting this bottom of the funnel positively impacts all the processes above. Talking about motivation, that motivates the entire team above, right? From the same funnel, if you are able to hire Rajiv around 30% more candidates than what you used to hire before, extremely well done job there. You have impacted not just top, because people usually see that okay, bottom of the funnel has been impacted. No, it is the entire funnel that has improved its efficiency by 35 to 40% basis what Rajiv did.
Absolutely. Can't agree more on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great points. I think everyone made wonderful points and contributions, I think, on this point. Right from, I think Rajiv spoke about forums, events, newsletters, right, to and a candidate management team, to even tackling a team's motivation, right, and Anurag also highlighted the impact that you could have overall. So James, what are some of the other challenges that when we think about there are challenges at the HR level and the candidate level as well? What are some of the top challenges according to you where technology can be leveraged and you can focus more on that human connection bit, because that's very critical when you're sort of whittling down that candidate list?
Yeah. So if you look at from a candidate perspective, what are some of his expectations? His expectation is that if I'm applying in an organization, how easy is it for me as far as my application is concerned, right? And then if I have been moved ahead in my application, then how fast does the entire process of application to the offer that takes place? How does the communication by the organization come to me as far as the culture of the organization is concerned? What is it that I'm joining? What is the type of team that I'm joining? What sort of benefits that are there for me as far as the organization is concerned? So these are some of the concerns, challenges as far as the candidates are concerned. When you look at the organizations, then for the organization, how is it that I'm able to get a candidate at the least of the right skill set for me, with meeting least of the candidates, the right fit for me, right? How does my recruiter understand what does it that I mean, and how does he improve as far as his understanding of the job descriptions are concerned? So these are some of the how does my offer to joining ratio becomes better and better. So these are the thought process as far as the organizations are concerned. And today, at every stage or every uh, process, there are a lot of automation that has taken place, and there are a lot of organizations who have got into chatbots that helps organizations. There are video interviews that takes place. There are fit indexes or predictive analysis that tell you that what is the right thing. But our experience has said that you introduce something, but if you do not have a interference of the human taking place, then there are chances that you are losing out somewhere. So we also went through this of having bot helping us to ensure that the candidate's application to his interview stage is completely automated. But what we saw was that we have enough and more number of applicants coming in. But if I compare it to my previous data, the conversions were less. I was not getting too many of the offers that is happening. So what was happening here was that the applicant was getting into the bot. After some of the questions that the bot was asking them, they used to get out of the bot, and then there would be a no-show right at that point of time. What used to happen earlier was when a recruiter was speaking to the candidate, then he was able to make his decision that this guy qualified, this doesn't guy doesn't qualify, and then you have more of candidates who has more chances of qualifying getting to the bot. So it's very important that you have the human touch also along with your at every stage. So this is in the application stage. Then you get into a stage where you are selected, for example. Now what happens? You have a 3 month of notice period at the max, and that's a pretty long time. And if you don't engage with the candidates of speaking to them, getting them to your office, meeting up with your prospective boss, then you are in a problem, because you never know on the last day whether the guy will come into or not. So these are some of the human interventions that are very, very important.
Absolutely. I think you've highlighted all of those challenge areas really well, James. Thank you so much for that. Anurag, I'm coming to you with these behavioral engagement touch points, perhaps something that you're working at HireSure as well, and we'll hear from Rajiv as well. What are some of these touch points that companies could focus on, and what's your experience of using it?
Anurag, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah. So, firstly, we have to understand that candidates are no longer a commodity. Candidates are your partners in building what you're building. If you're not going to make them feel so, you'll no longer be attractive as a hiring brand. Now, all of you might know that Kunal Shah recently told this thing about post-offer dropouts and how he was tackling this problem at Cred. He said that as employers, we have to take that first step of trust, which is why he started shipping laptops worth more than a lakh to their candidates even before the joining date. Firstly, the candidate dropouts reduced. Secondly, none of the laptops were withheld by the candidates. They obviously returned the laptops if they did not join, right? So you're not losing anything there. You're just putting forward a more trustworthy face to the candidates that we trust you with this, candidates would automatically then start trusting you people. You have to go that extra mile first. And adding one more beautiful point to what James highlighted, adding that human connection, right? We're talking about behavior here. How do you bring out that behavior? How do you monitor that behavior? We have seen through the engagement touch points where most of the things are, of course, automated, but because of that human touch, when a candidate schedules one-on-one session with their hiring manager somewhere in between this period, they're 18% more likely to join the company. Now, why that is happening? you know we all can get a sense of, this will happen, but you need data to prove that this is working, which is where technology comes into play. Technology will help you take those data driven decisions because it will capture data for you. It is eventually you who has to make that choice. No hiring manager one-on-one session has to be there. So that is the behavior aspect which you would not even know if you are not using data to drive those decisions. Using just the gut feel to make decisions would eventually be just a process of check-ins. It is not that of behavioral insights. You just think that one-on-one session is important, you do that, you don't even know whether you are being positively impacted because of that. I know this for a fact because that is data driven, right? So I think using data to drive those decisions is what has to be brought forward as a culture when we come to candidate experience and engagement.
Okay, so let me add one or 2 points quickly. I know we may be running short on time. Look, it's not a tick in the box activity. It is not that I have to, at the end of 15 days, I have to bring somebody to the office and I have to spend 30 minutes with them. It is not. There is a clear understanding that we have to build a human connection and a trust and a bond. And no better person than the recruiters who are the first point of contact for most of these candidates right from the time they've been sourced or spoken to. But what we've also done, and I'm sure most of the others are also doing or done, is that it's no more a recruitment responsibility of a candidate management. It is also a business responsibility. So hiring manager, including the business head in some context, we all come together and make sure that we are talking to the candidate and making sure that all his concerns, all his questions, and clear understanding of why should he join us is used. Not, well, I know Anurag did say that we should sell and we are not selling. It is more a representation of the reality. We should very clearly tell them, this is us, this is what we do, this is who we work for, this is our customer, and this is what we expect you to do. And this is what you will do or become or can enrich yourself when you are part of this team. That's number one. And second is, now given this uncertainty of people coming to the office, if they can't come to the office, I think we should go to where they are. I think the connect is absolutely essential. Every connect cannot be virtual. It can't be a phone call. It can't be a Teams call. If there are a bunch of people in a smaller town, we should go there, make sure that we meet them in person, because we are able to travel if they're not able to travel. I think two things. I think there are some questions around how do we make this process personalized. Nothing can be personalized if it can't be in person. So if they can't come, we go, we spend time with them. And second, it is a collaboration. It is just not about my responsibility or my recruiter's responsibility. It is collective responsibility of all the people involved in this process to give this experience to the candidate and making sure that we work as a team, because there could be some blind spots my team could miss, but probably business can pick it up saying, hey, look, probably you're not covered this aspect, or hey, this guy is thinking like this, is something which may pick up, and we can make sure that the process becomes more seamless. Collective collaboration, go where they are, make it personal, irrespective of how much automation you use. The H in HR is always human. So as long as we keep that personal and keep that real, I think we're going to make a lot of progress.
But and adding to, I think Rajiv also answered the audience question one. Adding to that, the post-offer personalization has more to do with what can be automated using that to a certain extent. So what we do at HireSure, for example, is that there is a persona of a candidate that is created who is supposed to join you. For example, the persona includes things like the person is a male or a female. The person is an outgoer or someone who is not an outgoer. A person who likes chocolates versus person who is a gym freak, right? Persona, these are the elements which are used to create a candidate persona, basis which I'll just now define a candidate journey. A candidate who was a chocolate lover, just after offer acceptance, receives a box of chocolates from Ferns and Petals to celebrate the moment of offer acceptance. The person who eventually likes shopping or is a shopaholic, have defined themselves to be so, receives a voucher from Flipkart so that they can groom themselves before they join office. Now that is happening for them automated. No one has to personally place that order on Flipkart of that e-voucher. That happens automatically. That is a personalization that will delight your candidates using candidate persona, which can be automated, right? So just that point there.
Absolutely. I think a lot of ideas both of you shared, I think that was really useful. Right from building that relationship of trust, the bond and connect that's required, and also sort of building data around some of these touch points, right? And mapping them to personas. And that sort of validates what you're doing and also builds that excitement factor for the candidate. And I think that's really exciting. I also want to hear from James and Rajiv on what are some mistakes that you think recruiters are making right now. I mean, I know you bring a lot of experience here as well, but maybe not everyone has access to some of these tools and data right now, and doing these personal things on scale might not be possible for everyone. But where do you think the opportunity is for recruiters really to make that difference? James, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll take some time on this because I think it's also a very important question. And I think, right from the thought process of who do you have as your recruiter in any organization, because many a time this debate goes on whether you need a guy who's more of an HR perspective comes in, or maybe a guy who's more of a sales guy who can go out there in the market and try to get people, right? So from my perspective, the selection of a candidate as the guy who's going to be your recruiter is very important, because he is ultimately going to be your ambassador for you. He is the first person that the probable candidate would be meeting, and he is the person who would be engaged with that up to the offer stage. In fact, what I would recommend many a times to my recruiters are that it's your KRA or your metrics to ensure that what sort of quality have you hired, and for that keep a track of that candidate until his appraisal of the first year is completed and what sort of rating you have. And if you measure some of those things, then you are able to always have a healthy discussions with your stakeholder on stating that what sort of a quality you have hired, and the candidate experience as far as the engagement with that particular recruiter is concerned. There are so many candidates who takes the decision of whether to join this organization or another organization is based on the engagement that he had with the recruiter, right?
Right.
And at various levels. And I have done personally myself, at a very, very senior level of recruitment, how I have engaged with that particular person right through his, even travel, even if he's coming, at a certain point of time to, to our office, then to meet someone. But I made it a point that I myself is present there rather than sitting at home and working, to ensure that the connect is there with the candidate. And that helps to make his decision as far as joining an organization or a concern or not. The second thing that becomes important from the recruiter's point of view is that how does he evaluate himself? He should at every stage keep on measuring his performance all throughout. Am I doing as far as my conversions are concerned? Is that good? Are my stakeholders happy with me? Am I working as a consultant to my stakeholders rather than, just pushing him CVs and trying to see that, I've given you so many CVs and you have not selected, giving him more of, overqualified candidates rather than understanding the job descriptions quite well. So these are some of the mistakes that they do as far as, and to a great extent, I will not blame them. I think that every organization should look at how do they have a proper training methodology as far as the recruiter is concerned, and keep on refreshing those with the recruiters, that how does they look at their matrices, what are the key matrices that they should follow. These are the things that becomes very, very important when it comes to the recruiter. It's not by choice that they do the mistake. It is because they are chasing a number, and for them, meeting that number becomes very, very important. Believe me, these are the recruiters who do 90% of the recruitment or 90% of the fulfillment, but yet get beaten up because you have not done that 10%, and the 10% comes into the focus, and nobody appreciate them for the 90% that they have done, right? So I think, yeah, that becomes very important. How do you train, coach, and have refresher trainings for them to improve themselves?
So let me add, I think a couple of very valid points, but more importantly, what I emphasize and what we have always emphasized in the past is to bring in what we call the recruiter instinct, right? See, look, if you make a call to a guy and he says, yes, yes, I'm on track and I'm going to join on the particular day. And if you think that it is, you're going to believe that and you say, okay, that's the biggest mistake anybody will make, because that is not a confirmation of anything. There has to be, so when you're connected well, if you're the right person on the job and if you're connected well with the candidate, then your ability to read the instincts is going to help you know whether things are going well or not going well. I know Anurag will tell me that some of these can be taken, a human element can be taken away, we can make it more predictable with a tool. I agree. But as of today, your ability to build the trust, bring in that instinct is going to make a huge difference. The mistake is we realize very late when people stop taking your calls, or then they're not responding to your emails, or they are incommunicado. So then you're trying to call from another phone number to verify, or you're trying to call from somebody else's number to see if he's picking up the call, or you're then going quickly to check in a job portal if he's still looking for a job. So this is very late realization. You should not even get to that stage. You should make sure that you're in control by bringing in the element and knowing very, very well that, look, the one other question which some dropouts are very high, that is not going to change. You don't have to make an offer for the sake of an offer. You should be very, very clear about the offers you're going to make. You're going to make it to a person who you know is reasonably interested, wants to do this job. I am not going to reward my recruiters for the number of offers they make. I'm going to reward my recruiters for the conversions what they have. And the conversions is basically bringing in instinct, bringing in believability, understanding the candidate need and mindset and match, and proposition matching. So if you're able to do those things, you're able to do well. But if you're going to ignore any of this, then that's the biggest mistake they're making. And then, like James rightly said, they're going to get beaten up for probably what they shouldn't have done, but they've actually done it. And that is what is going to make it a success or a failure. And then that is what we always emphasize on. I still talk to my teams every day saying, don't push candidate into the pipeline if he is not the candidate to be pushed. Don't interview if you're not to be pushed. Don't make an offer if you don't make an offer. I like to see a healthy conversion of number of offers being less, but the conversion being more. It's not about number of offers being high and then conversions being what it is, and then continue to keep saying that the candidates are rejecting and the rejection ratio is very high. I think the mistake we make is this, and we should avoid that.
Got it. And adding to that, and also answering the audience question 3, which is candidates are still dropping out because they're accepting at other offers. Now I tell you very interesting scenario of multiple unicorn founders. I've spoken to so many of them, and they told me one thing, that Anurag, when you are hiring for your initial team, because those are really important people, right? Those are the foundation on which the entire team is built. They do not hire them by usual recruitment methods like these. They don't have a recruiter to engage the candidate. What they do is, many of them, I've seen those presentations myself, they prepare a presentation for the candidates. They sit with that candidate and make them understand what they are building, why they are building, and how you are extremely important in what they are building. Now, can the founders still do this when they are above 50-60 in employee strength? Forget 5,000. They cannot do that. But can that objective of communicating the candidate why you are important not be achieved? Absolutely not. They can achieve that. And that is where Rajiv's point of recruiters come into the picture, right? Your recruiters should be the torch bearers of what you are as an organization. And if a recruiter is not able to communicate that to the candidate, that is not going to help. And that brings me to the point of post-offer period. Why and where recruiters are going wrong. Now, if you see post-offer period as where you will engage the candidate for regular check-ins, those check boxes, every week you have to connect with the candidate, done, email sent, that is one way of looking at it. Second is, utilize those touch points with your candidate to make an impression, to impress the candidate, communicate good things about the company. If you do the latter, the former is automatically achieved. right? But if you're doing just the former, which is check in with the candidate every week to see if they're still interested, calling them every time, you don't even know whether the other person is available to pick up your calls or not. Nowadays people drop a WhatsApp message first, whether you are available, shall I call you, versus directly calling your candidates and then saying that, hey, my company is so good. You cannot do that any longer. In fact, if your job objective is just getting a pulse, you're going to look desperate. It will diminish your brand image and also irritate your candidates. So companies should focus on post offer period to build a brand, communicate a story to the candidates versus just a regular check-in. And that is where the scenario of offer dropouts will be prevented, because offer dropouts is not a problem. It is a symptom of a bigger problem, which is candidates do not like you enough, which is why they're going somewhere else, right? They like someone else better than you. And if you're doing that mistake of portraying only compensation to convince your candidates to join you, obviously where they get a better compensation, they'll go there, right? You can do
Someone is
nothing
always
with
paying more than you.
absolutely. There will always be someone paying more than you, and you'll always have dropouts, which is why you need to do something much larger than that. And that is where recruiters are extremely important. It is not a checking call, it is building around compensation that the recruiters have to do in post offer period to prevent dropouts, else it is not at all possible. Yeah.
And also, let's also accept the fact that dropouts are necessary evil. You can never plug it, right? The question is, how are you reducing it and making it more relevant to what you're doing, which is more manageable, and then which works for you? I think it's specific to company. What works for me may not work for James, or Anurag may do it differently. But we should adopt what is acceptable, what works, where all the interest of the stakeholder is taken care of fairly well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think very enriching points. I think all of you shared, right from the relationship, we need to train and coach and build that recruiter instinct, get a pulse, and make sure that you're doing that proposition matching. I think a lot of things that our audience can take away today. So we'll jump into the final question before we go to some audience questions. When you look at the future, what are some trends that you think are going to shape candidate experience in the future? Is it going to be likely to be very same? Are we going to see more technology touchpoints to be discussed? Are we going to see more advances there? Are there some trends that you are really excited about? What are your points on that? So can we start with James?
Yeah, sure. So I think we all debated and spoke about the same stuff, that keeping the candidate as your the prime person in the entire chain. We need to keep making it easy for him, right? Is it easy for him if he comes into your career site to look at as much as information that is looking out as far as your career site is concerned about the type of job that he's applying for? The job description that we are giving him, does it talk about everything that he is that you are looking out for or you're expecting from him is concerned? You look at your social media. So the next thing is you will go across and start looking at various channels about what does it speaks in the overall social media platform. So how does it represent your organizations? Are there testimonials about your existing people? Are there testimonials about that particular department function leaders that are available there? So then he's able to go through that and make his judgment whether he's joining the type of organization that is looking out for the culture of the organization. Does that represent somewhere or not? So all these things for an organization, it is not at all difficult to capture. They need to look at the various surveys that they do internally. So in our organizations, we have right from the recruiter getting, right from the candidate getting rejected to selected to onboarding to 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and your various EPS that you constantly have yearly. Look at those stuff and try to build in various aspects that makes easy for the candidate to understand about the organization. So whether you do it automated, you do it, in person, you create in your systems. As Anurag rightly mentioned, that there are certain things that can be done in an automated fashion, which makes the process very fast, which is very, very important. And there are certain things that requires your personal touch. Ensure that you are having those personal touch also taking place.
Yeah. So I'll just add on before Anurag concludes this point. Look, I agree. So we have a fair bit of data points available with us, and then we can add on a little more automated tool way to build the whole thing. But I like to personally believe that the full remote is gone to some large extent. So there is hybrid. So there is going to be some availability and opportunity for us to bring people into an office, or we going where they are, so that the personalization can continue. We are able to meet people, if not as regularly as we would like, at least in some intervals, and then we can make sure that the candidate engagement continues as and benefits all of us. So what James said, plus adoption of tools, and given that we may have more opportunities to deal or be with the candidate pools, will probably make sure that we continue this engagement and make sure it's useful and productive.
Right. Uh, Absolutely right, Rajiv. As I told, these both things, automation and human touch, have to work in tandem to make this possible. Right? It is a
Yes.
humongous task to be achieved in terms of candidate experience, and you cannot expect everything to be automated and to delight the candidates. That is
Yes.
not possible.
Yes.
I'll just summarize this with a very basic example. Around 1 month of time, the candidate would be in your funnel by the time you make an offer.
Yep.
Another 2 months, you will wait for the candidates to come and join you. 3 months of
Mm.
time. Divide that by the entire year, 1 by 4. 25% likely it will be your candidate's birthday somewhere in between. Do you think you will be wishing them on their birthday? Do you think it is humanly possible to remember the birthday? Not possible. Automation comes into the picture when they'll remind you, hey Rajiv, it is your candidate's birthday tomorrow. Then you have to enter manually, wish your candidate a happy birthday. Your recruiter can do that. But is it possible without technology intervention? No, it is not. There are hundreds of candidates in the pipeline. It will be someone's birthday every day. But what if there's an automated task that is created for your recruiter that you have to wish these two candidates happy birthday who are there in your pipeline? And that is what I'm talking about. And there can be thousands of examples like these, right? And that is where both of the things have to work in tandem to delight candidates, impress candidates at every touch points that you're interacting with them. And this is what is going to change in the future. We have started delighting our employees already. It is only a matter of time when we'll also start looking as candidates as employees, and we'll never ignore their calls. We'll never ignore their emails, because that is going to bite us back in Ambition Box and Glassdoor. People go to Glassdoor and Ambition Box just to see what is going wrong in this organization. Why not put it forward directly? Just tell them, hey, we are 4.5 stars on Glassdoor. We are so good as a company. Why do you want candidates to explore the company? See, they explore the company because they don't know enough. Why don't you tell them about the company more and more, so that it creates a very positive bias? Okay, suppose I'm meeting Rajiv, and I spoke to Jerry before meeting Rajiv, and he told me 100 good things about Rajiv. I met James. He said, hey, Rajiv is such a wonderful person. I've worked with him before. He's amazing. Even before I meet Rajiv, I am already so impressed that even if Rajiv is doing something wrong, I'll think, no, I think this might be something else. Rajiv is a great person. That is a bias that is already created. Now, when you are not doing all of this, the first thing candidates would do is read your negative review on Glassdoor, and that is the bias that will always be created. So what I'm saying is that create that positive bias by telling good things, and there are hundreds of good things about your company. You know that you post it on LinkedIn every day. Your candidates don't know about that. People for whom you are doing employer branding, people who are going to reject your offer in few days of time, why not tell the good things about your company to them? It matters to them the most, right? And that is what will change in the time to come, wherein you'll do everything possible to delight your incoming candidates so that they eventually convert. Yeah, so that's all from my side.
Sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think all of you have hit the nail on the head, and I'm sure our audience can take in a lot of key points that they can apply to their strategies. Let's jump right into some audience questions. Let me start with maybe the last one. And is it good to mention in the offer letter that if a person does not join, the person has to pay 50% of the gross monthly offer to the organization? Does
No.
it make an impact?
No. Look, I think one of the underlining principles which Anurag started this conversation was trust, right? And how a startup is even sending laptops worth a lakh even before they join. See, it's trust. Look, I personally believe no bond will work, and even at a fresher level. And I've always advised organizations that you don't do that, because you can't even enforce. Because if you have a bond and if you can't enforce, then there's no point of having a bond, right? So yeah, you can. There are some monetary aspects which a lot of companies spend, and then they try to recover a few, if at all there is some abandonment of service or people don't fulfill their obligations. I can understand that, but look, a candidate has every right to choose what he wants to do, and he will decide basis a few things. It can be basis, somebody said, will a negative comment make a decision? He will look at influencing pools. He will look at people he's speaking to. He will make his judgment on comments he reads, and he will assess whether it's the right thing for him to do or not. I don't think any monetary penalty will anyway work, and it's not the right way to even look at it, because then you're not trusting the person enough. So why would he even come and be a part of your journey? I don't think so. In my personal opinion, it does not want to work, and I don't think it's even possible to enforce it. And then I don't think there is enough legal muscle also to do anything of that kind. And I don't think it's recommended in the first case. It's not even go there. I don't think it's even required.
Yeah, absolutely. What Rajiv is saying is right. The legal perspective also, some of these things are not allowed, including the bond that some of the times that we think that can take place. So legally also it's not allowed.
I think you should give them a compelling reason to think when they have to leave, because you make that experience, the journey, the growth, the learning so good that they think twice before leaving. So let's put them in an emotional dilemma rather than a financial dilemma.
Totally agreed to what Rajiv said. See, this used to be the case before, when you think you're
Yes.
doing a great,
Yeah, I know.
help to the person whom you're recruiting, right? You are their god, something like that. That is no longer the case. Firstly, it is a candidate-driven market now, irrespective of the recession, and it will always be. You cannot have a stick in place for the candidates. You are going to lose your brand image to an extent where you'll never be able to attract talent, right? And that will bite down, every good thing that you have ever done. 50% penalty on the candidate, no one is ever going to interview you, and the people who are then interviewing you probably are not those good a candidate, and doesn't mean that candidate will never be good. When the candidate becomes good, skilled enough, they'll no longer want to work for you, because you are such a bad employer, right, that you are penalizing the candidate. It has to always be a carrot. You have to reward positive behavior. You have to look very favorable to the candidate, and that is only what is going to work. You cannot penalize the candidate. A big no from my side. This is never going to work.
See, I'm sure some of these questions are coming, again from the culture perspective as far as the organizations are concerned. You will find a lot of hiring managers always thinking that, yeah, this guy requires a job, I am here to give him a job. Why is he so demanding? If he wants a job, he'll join me. There are so many hiring managers who make such statements, but it's important for the companies, as Rajiv mentioned, that you sit along with your hiring managers and tell that this is a strategy, this is what the market is, this is how we need to, behave with the candidates. So those education internally is very, very important.
Perfect. Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's a question on how can companies train managers and recruiters. I think we touched upon
Yeah,
this
we touched upon that. Yeah.
earlier.
Collaboration.
Yeah, so train and coach and reflect. Anything else like
I
from
think yeah. So what we do at HGS is that it's important that any hiring manager, he has to go through from the learning and development a certification course, which qualifies him as far as his interviews are, how he conducts interview, the way that he has to follow the process, and same for the recruiters as well. So that's internal. Externally also there are a lot of learning and development opportunities that are there by many companies. Various companies have this recruiters training programs that are available.
Yeah, in fact, we encourage our own people to talk to a much larger audience, other recruiters and other companies, finding out what is working for them and see if we can adopt it. Because what may work for you may not work for me, but there could be some common sharing. There could be some tips which we can pick up, which probably we are not doing. Somebody else is doing well, and probably people like Anurag can tell us that this kind of company is doing this, and why don't you adopt it because it may benefit you. So they are more relevant. Those practical, what is working for somebody may make more difference to us. And it's a collaboration. In the end, it is just not a recruiter responsibility for onboarding. It is collaborative. The business is as involved, and either we win or we lose, but it's together.
Absolutely right. To what Rajiv said, anything that is working for someone else may not directly work for you, which is why. So, for example, so a candidate who is joining you in 45 days of time, right? So, algorithm at HireSure automatically chooses say 12 touch points to be triggered to this candidate. It automatically churns out the least performing touch point basis the engagement level that it has seen in the past with the candidates. For example, a template which is a letter from the founder talking about the vision of the company that goes out to the candidate. If eventually that template is not performing well, that has to be churned out. And the reason for that could be that the letter from CEO is 15-page long. Who is going to read that 15-page long document? Maybe that is the reason why it is not working. And we've seen that this is a real example. When we reduced that 15-page document to just 2 pages, we saw the maximum engagement in letter from the founder. I mean, a candidate of yours who is not going to want to read a letter from the founder. Everyone, right? But if it is a 15-page long document, no one is wanting to. So it may not work as it is, but with few changes, if you're able to monitor that, definitely going to work in your favor.
To a letter converting into a video communication. I mean, it works extremely well.
That is even better. Absolutely right, James. A letter from the CHRO talking about the culture of the company has been doing wonders for our clients. So yeah, just a point.
Great, wonderful, great ideas there. So Raju, are you sending your recruiters to different forums to network with other recruiters in other companies?
Yes, we do. So we have created enough informal forums. In fact, I talk to a lot of people, then I connect to my people and say, hey, look, these guys are doing it, and we encourage people to go. In fact, if by accident, if my recruiters come on a Friday, which is very rare, then I take them for lunch and I make sure that they talk to someone else new so that they get a new idea. So we do something a little differently, but yeah, we have a lot of knowledge sharing, information sharing, groups and forums and people we have created, and I continue to enhance that because it is my responsibility. So if now I met Anuragan and James, so I would now bring them into this fold and see what is that they are doing, and some more sharing can happen.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's a question on common practices to engage employees post-offer acceptance for leadership hiring and mid-level hiring. Is this very radically different?
Yes.
Your experiences, thoughts? Yeah.
No, I'll tag. I'm sure these guys can add too. Look, at a mid-level, senior level, there'll be more emphasis on culture. There'll be more emphasis on vision. There'll be more emphasis on growth, more emphasis on reality. You cannot, with a techie, you can still say a few things and then probably you can get away. But with management people, especially who are going to be a part of your core teams and driving company forward, you have to be very, very honest and truthful. You have to tell them the problems as well. It is just not about telling all the good things. You should tell them what is the problem and why are we even hiring them, because you're hiring them to solve a particular problem. I think that is where, and I'm sure the flip side of it is that you're probably scaring somebody. But then if he is not able to see that, he is probably not meant for you at all in any case. So reality, honesty, talking to them about where we are headed, what is it we are trying to do, how does we see his role panning out, what is he expected to do, and what is he supposed to solve. I think that is very, very important. And like James said, these guys have to be anchored by senior people. They will be the engagement. Even I talk to all my VPs and I'm engaged as a part of our engagement, so that they also know that there is a senior person they can talk to, and then they're more comfortable sharing their views and inputs with somebody more senior, because they know it will be heard, and they know it will be whatever response will be probably a little more realistic and truthful. I think that is very, very important for us to do.
Yeah. James, Anurag, any thoughts from you?
No, I think Rajesh said it all. The communication, which is very, very clear, transparent, is very important, because you are investing into someone who is going to be a leader, and he has to then take it forward down on with the team, and he will have some very, very different type of target and expectations that the organization would have. So in our cases, there are positions that we hire wherein we talk about what is the company's next 3-year, 4-year, 5-year plans, how are we achieving that, and there are a lot of such questions right from the balance sheet that comes out, from this
Yes.
audience that you need to answer.
And public, look,
Absolutely.
And then, as Rajiv mentioned, absolutely you need to ensure that the senior levels, and I know of our CEOs in many cases, in many organizations who directly meet some of the leadership and have interactions with them, which gives an impression both ways, right?
yes,
The CEO is able to understand who's coming in and the
yes.
candidate, what type of an organization that I'm joining, and how does that it comes down to us as well.
And information is in public domain today, whether we like it or not. Even if it's a privately held company, there are enough ways of knowing the financials of the company. So you cannot get away with a lie. It is going to catch up with you sooner than later. So honesty, truthfulness is absolutely required. And then especially in where they're going to be part of building an organization or taking it from point A to point B, they need to be knowing more than anyone else why is that they're there. So that, I think that communication is very important.
Absolutely. I think of this as a reverse interview or an investor call wherein you have to tell them the details of the company.
Yes,
Otherwise, no investor would want to invest. Similarly, a senior leader would never want to invest these years of career in you, right? That is even more
absolutely,
valuable. So
absolutely,
think of it like that.
absolutely.
Right. Fantastic. In spite of following some of these processes, sometimes we still have last minute offer dropouts. What could
Yes.
be the reason? Perhaps, how do you gather data around last minute offer dropouts? Do you have any
Look,
suggestion?
that's what I'm saying. I'm sure my friends will have their own views, but rejection is a part of your recruiter's life. The question is, how proactive are we about our ability to anticipate this? I do not want to know this on the day of joining. That pisses me off, because that means you have not brought your instinct, you have not built a relationship with your candidate, and he never told you that he's not joining till the day he didn't. So we have to live with it. We have to plan. We have to have plan B's. Then we have to. But this is not going to reduce. You can reduce it, but you can't eliminate it. And it all depends on your own personality, your own persona, which makes this huge difference. There you could be aided by some tools. You could be aided by from analytics. You can have a persona. You can say that this kind of people will, or this kind of people will not, or that. And also compensation. As I told, every offer will be beaten, so that you cannot basis your decision on somebody accepting the offer today, and the whole scenario can change. And the biggest thing, if I analyze my own dropouts, the current employer till the last hour of relieving has a counter offer on the table, which we cannot control. Okay, so he still holds the last ace, because he can give an on-site opportunity, he can give a promotion at 5 o'clock relieving, 4 o'clock that conversation can happen, which we can't control. So the, the question is, we have to acknowledge this reality, you have to deal with it and see how you're going to make a difference to what you're doing.
Yeah, just 2 points there. Firstly, as Rajiv told, right, they can put a last minute ace. Make sure you have put all your aces to the candidates already, because they are going to evaluate on what they have received before that last minute ace. If that is still worthy, the candidate will still join you. Secondly, as a platform, using all the analytics, we monitor click behavior, scroll behavior of the candidate, the sentiment of the candidate while answering questions, all of that. Even after that, there's only about 89% of the dropouts we are able to predict. 11% of the dropouts might genuinely happen last minute, right? Because of that last minute ace, the candidate himself or herself have not made their decision to
Correct.
join you. How can someone predict? If even if you call them for a coffee at your office, they'll come and then they'll drop out.
Yes.
We cannot solve that. It is only to an extent that this can be solved. Make sure you get to that extent at least, right?
Yes.
And you
Correct.
can use certain things already available to get to that 89%. Just make sure you're not at 50%, that you're saying half of the times the candidate will join and the candidate doesn't join. Make sure that you're not at 50%. That is the reality. You can only push to so much, not beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And we
think
still have to trust the candidate maturity, because he knows why he's changing. And I hope he does not change it because of a monetary reason at the last minute. But that's something which is completely outside your control.
Yeah, just to add to this, measuring it becomes very important. It depends upon how large of volume hiring that you're doing and how much of numbers that you're hiring. So measuring some of these things becomes very important. Is it that there is a certain position or a certain hiring manager in whose case you have more of dropouts that are taking place? Are you ensuring from the recruiter's point of view, you're taking care of the resignation letter acceptance, the last day of working? All these things have been documented, and you guys are having that. The engagement that you all have planned as an organization, are those taking place? It should not, as somebody said earlier, should be a tick in the box, but it is taking place. If the candidate is engaged, are the hiring managers meeting them? Anurag gave a wonderful idea of, how do you ensure that you find what are the likes of that guy and send a box of chocolate or a flowers or whatever that can be done. I think these are the things that we can do. But end of the day, yeah, you will have a certain percentage, which is what you have to build up in your system. That this is what is going to take place, and how do I ensure more offers to manage this?
Sure. Right.
Fantastic. I think we'll have to pause there. We have more questions, but I would encourage maybe us audience to answer these questions offline. We will send the questions to our speakers. I think we have 3 or 4 more questions. So, but thank you so much. This was a really insightful discussion with a lot of key takeaways and ideas for our audience. I'm sure they enjoyed it because we had questions pouring in throughout. And I personally took a lot of notes, and I'm sure we'll craft a good article out of this. So really appreciate Anurag, James, and Rajay for taking your time today and sharing your knowledge and information with us today. I'd also really like to thank our partner for this session, HireSure. It enables companies to transform their candidate experience with AI. For more details, you can visit their website, hiresure.ai. So in the interest of time, we'll wrap it up here. It's been a pleasure hosting all of you. And stay tuned for more such exciting sessions. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Anurag. Thank you, James. It was a pleasure to be here and lovely to converse here. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Thanks, Rajiv, James, Jerry. Bye. See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you guys.